Good morning, Rotary Club of Centennial. One last time, would you all please silence your cell phones?
The end of the dark ages.
Tripp, I love you. Thanks for being back there to heckle all. Dr. Mark, I believe you have the inspiration.
10, 12 years ago, I was reading a book called The Blue Zones, and it's about 5 areas of the world where people routinely live over 100 years old. And I don't just mean live over 100 years old. They are functioning members of their family and communities. There are no wheelchairs or walkers. They don't live in senior citizen communities. And these 5 areas are Icaria, Greece, Sardinia, Italy, Okinawa, Japan, towns along the panhandle of Nicaragua, and believe it or not, one in the United States, Loma Linda, California. And what makes Loma Linda special is that they are the home to many Seventh-day Adventists. And if you remember, we used to have a member here named Robert Wareham, and his father, Ellsworth Wareham, was featured in this book. He is today 104 years old, but at the time of the book, he was a practicing cardiac surgeon at 92 years old. They are known for practicing a vegetarian diet, and it is against their religion to drink or smoke, so not a lot of fun at parties. Anyway, National Geographic sent a reporter to all 5 zones, and they wanted to know what they had in common, because perhaps they could make a formula for living longer. And many of the things that they found will not surprise you. For instance, if you are very active in your life, you're likely to live longer. The average person in the panhandle of Nicaragua, they walked 5 miles a day. If you eat a lot of vegetables and fruits, you are likely to live longer. In fact, most of these places only ate meat on special occasions such as holidays and weddings. But the 2 things that really intrigued me and are related to Rotary was that he found that having a sense of purpose, even after you retire, actually helps you to live longer. And I was thinking about that with Rotary, and even our retirees, when they come to Rotary, they have a sense of purpose in their life. This club gives people that direction. And the other thing he found was how they socialize. He went to basically all these people tend to gather into groups. And he went in Okinawa, Japan, he went to one of their every day they gather at someone else's home, and that person prepares a meal for them, and he listened. He didn't understand Japanese, so he just listened. And what he found was there was a lot of teasing of people. There was a lot of tomfoolery. There was a lot of laughter and smiles and giggles and hugs and so forth. And I thought, my gosh, if he was talking... This man, yes, I think the Japanese version of Tripp was there. And it made me rethink what Rotary is, because if he was talking about a younger group, I would say he's talking about Centennial Rotary Club. And it almost made me think, boy, there should be another area of focus in Rotary, and that is the health and well-being of Rotarians. And so I just wanted to share that with you and give you Spock's greeting, live long and prosper.
So, Mark, does it count if your purpose after retirement is to eat a lot of bacon? I mean, just saying. Randy Pye, would you lead us in the pledge this morning?
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So you might notice all the duties today have been assigned to past presidents of the club, which I think was a kind of a cool idea. Kent Ostegard, you have been giving, no surprise here, the Rotary Minute for the day.
Yeah, how about that? I kind of forgot between Friday and today that is the Rotary Minute, but thankfully when Yeah. Thankfully, I always have a few things in my back pocket. And one I saw recently was actually a really neat project. Correct me if I'm wrong, Tom, but your past club, before you joined our club, was the Aurora Gateway Club, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Last week on Channel 9 News, the Aurora Gateway Club was featured on a story. And I thought that was worthy of a Rotary Minute. For those of you that aren't familiar with the little libraries, which I hope you all are if you're a member of this club, the Aurora Gateway Club did something a little different. They took the same design, the same box that we built for our libraries, and instead of putting books in it, they put canned food. And the club started it off, and they filled it with canned food. And I don't know if it was the president of the club or if it was just if it was the project manager, but they interviewed a gentleman, and he said that within a week, most of the food was gone. And then he went back the next day, and it was refilled. And he didn't refill it. He says the community has taken over and basically started to fill and refill as people use it. And I thought, wow, is that Rotary at work or what? So anyway, it's on Channel 9's. If you want more details, you can check the story out on their website. But I thought, what a wonderful idea. And they have it in front of a library. So it's not, I'm sorry, I don't remember which library. It's one in Aurora, though. But I thought, wow, what a neat idea. Maybe there's something we could do is take that nice design that Ken built with those libraries and do a canned food, maybe in front of the Coba Library or in front of the City of Centennial's building or something like that. But I thought, what a great idea for this club to do. So anyway, there's your Rotary Minute.
Hey, Ken. Ken, do they have a label on it? Do they call it like Little Food Bank or anything like that, or do they just have the food in there and hope people just discover it? Or do you know?
John, I don't remember.
Okay. I mean, I think that'd be kind of interesting to find that out.
It had Rotary symbols on it, on
Okay.
both sides, but I don't know that it said that it was a little food bank or anything
Okay.
like that. So I didn't see that.
Okay. See what you can find out, because that's actually, I think, a pretty cool idea. Tom Buck, thanks so much for setting up this morning, and Randy Ernest is on the schedule to take down, but he's on vacation, so we might have a joint effort. Mr. Buck, or I saw a hand back there.
John is indicating he's going to.
Oh, John Wexler's going to take down. John, thank you very much. Mary Alice, thanks for being greeter this morning. Mark, outstanding inspiration. Thank you so much for that. And Randy, I don't think anybody has led the pledge better than that in the last week or so.
Well, when I paused, because I wasn't sure how it started, everybody jumped in.
Wonderful. Do we have any visiting Rotarians other than Patrick McGuire? Ladies and gentlemen, Patrick McGuire is back in our midst. Patrick, did you visit the Green Country? Did you visit the Green Country while you were gone?
If you call New Jersey.
I thought New Jersey was the acid rain country, but that's a little different. Time to introduce guests. Reverend Dan, where are you hiding out at? I saw you. Why don't you stand up? Dan's our speaker, but go ahead and stand up and give a quick bio of who you are. And
My name's Dan Hettinger. I'm very glad to be here today. I think Cheryl's going to introduce me, but I'll just say I'm on staff as a care pastor at Mountain View Christian Church. I'm a chaplain at Sky Ridge Medical Center, and I work all over Denver with the faith community to cultivate a culture of care. Nothing like being with a group of volunteers to be part of that. So I'm very glad to be with you today.
all right, thank you. And Sheriff Dave has a very special guest today. A very shy and reserved young lady is with us today. Dave, can you go ahead and give us a quick intro?
I'd love to. Macy, come here. Let's come here. So here's my guest. This is Macy Wilson. Let me tell you how Macy got here today. Sometimes schools or other folks will call me and say, hey, Sheriff, would you do like a fundraiser for us? And I'll do like, lunch with the sheriff and a tour of the jail and, maybe get to spend some hours training with the bomb squad. That's a big one. That goes bang. But Macy she'll be a 5th grader at Peabody Elementary School, and they had a fundraiser for their PTO. And I was tired of the same old, so I says, how about sheriff for a day? Actually, half a day. So Macy's wearing this badge, so just so you know, if you're going to push around the cops today, you're pushing around her, and then you're pushing around me. So Macy is going to spend half a day with me, so I thought I'd bring her to Rotary today, and she's sheriff for a day today, and then we've got some other stuff planned for her, and her folks will come back in about 11, and we're going to do something really cool that I've never done before, and she's never done. She didn't know what it is yet. But she's my guest today, and she's the sheriff of Arapahoe County for a day with me. So help me welcome Macy Wilson.
Oh, come on, Macy.
Hi, my name is Macy, and basically my mom works for the PTO at my school, and I go to Peabody Elementary School.
All right, wonderful. And Dave, could you introduce our other guest from your
I am so sorry.
I know.
This is Audrey LaCrone. She is one of our public information officers, and her and Julie Brooks, our 2 public information officers, set this thing up today and have been making all the plans today. So Audrey thought she'd stop over today. She's never met Macy either, so we're just gonna have a fun morning this morning, quite honestly. So thank you.
All right, great. Thanks, guys. After talking to Macy for a couple of minutes, I immediately went over to Kent and I said, you need to get in touch with her mom and get her signed up for Young Ryla, even though it's a couple years out, because I think she would absolutely love that program. Birthdays, Mr. Eunice, June 27th, correct?
That's correct.
And this is 28 or 29?
30.
30? 30? All right, you're finally over the hump. Andres Asuna on July 7th. And then my very lovely wife, July 2nd. And she will be 29 on this one. So let's have a round of applause for all the birthdays. And then you might notice on your program, he cheated. It's the 17th. It's not the 27th. So Fritzler was sneaky, and his birthday was actually last week, but it's on the program as today. And then Mr. Butler, what do you need to remember to do on July 6th?
Rain on flowers.
So Trip and Cherry, is this 2 or is this 2? 2 years, man. You're over the hump. Yeah, I know. It doesn't seem a year over 20, does it?
Sherry said it better be better than flowers.
And then Greg and Pat Cottrell's anniversary, and I didn't write down the date, but it's coming up this week too. Is it this next week? All right. I just noticed somebody came in, so I need to.
Oh, Roxy.
I know, you're in trouble now, and it's going to be in front of everybody. All right, as you know, we had changing of the guard this weekend. Great turnout, very, very fun event. We weren't able to distribute all the awards. But first, before we get going on some of the awards that we're going to distribute today, most of you probably already know this, but our Rotarian of the Year is our very own Rotary gnome, Mr. John Peterson. John, stand up. Take a bow. Come on, quit being so damn stubborn.
Thank you, everybody.
All right.
Use the microphone.
Yeah. You know, John does so much for the club. All the stuff that you see up here that makes us look professional, that's all him. His fingerprints are all over that. His fingerprints are also all over every time you get yelled at for not using a microphone, so go ahead and blame him.
Don't forget Bobby does on the website.
Yep, he does tons. I'm not going to go through all of that. We're going to get all the awards posted on the website this week, but also another award winner. Where is she? Catherine Henson, President's Award this year. So let's get into a few awards that we were not able to give out. And let's do a little perfect attendance. Where is Cheryl Sartain? Perfect attendance, 4 years. Wow. Good job. Dr. Mark, 8 years.
Whoa.
And I'm glad you're in attendance on a day we're honoring you for attendance. Now keep in mind, attendance, it could be involvement in service projects, so there's all sorts of ways to do makeups. Socials. Roxy Hahn, 17 years, perfect attendance.
Is that 17 years of being late?
Well, you know, it says attendance.
Hey, yours better than nothing.
It says attendance. It doesn't say anything about punctuality. There is a difference. So a couple awards. An award that we weren't able to give out is the Club Service Award. And this award goes to someone whose smiling face greets us every single morning, bright and early in the club. Those pearly whites definitely help you wake up. Paul Horiuchi, Club Service Award. Let's go. And it says, Paul Horiuchi Club Service Award for always being there bright and early. There you go. And let's let, who wants to take pictures? Don. Don, you're slipping. This is kind of like standing next to Peterson.
That's a picture of Peterson.
You're not hurting. I
know. So I got to tell you a funny story. As we were leaving Barb Medina's house, I had taken a load to the car, and I was walking back in, and John Peterson was on the way out. And I said, "Come on, John, handshake isn't enough. I need a hug." So I give him a big hug, and his wife, Karen, goes, "Oh, I need to get a picture of this." So we were standing side by side, and the picture that she sent me is the second one, but on the first one, what I don't think he realized is I was standing up on my tippy toes next to him to further exacerbate the situation. But we got a great picture, and we'll get that on the website. I don't think anybody really realized he doesn't quite hit my shoulder. He did a heck of a job. Our next award that we weren't able to give out is the Quiet Rotarian Award. And this is for a Rotarian who does a lot, but it tends to be in the background. So a lot of times people don't realize it. This person is responsible for a lot of pictures, a newsletter, and just coming up with all sorts of interesting ideas. Now, he's not going to be able to take his picture on this. Don Shattuck, the Quiet Rotarian. And the award says, Don Shattuck, the Quiet Rotarian Award for working behind the scenes to make a better club. Good job. Yeah. Good job, Patrick.
Keep on clicking.
If anybody wants a supply of bubble wrap, I'm building up a nice little pile up here.
Hey.
And then it looks like only one more award to give out today. There's still a lot of people out on vacation. So this award is the All Avenues of Service Award. And this goes to a Rotarian that's heavily involved not only in what the club does, but things at the district level as well. And those are things that make a big difference to the club, but we don't always see what's going on. But really, the other major thing is her dedication to Rotary Youth Exchange. When I first got involved in the club, I thought, Youth Exchange, that's kind of cute. You know, but as I've gotten to know a lot of our exchange students, I think it makes a profound difference in a lot of people's lives. So this year's honoree for the All Avenues of Service Award, Roxy Hahn.
Yeah.
And it says, All Avenues of Service Award for your commitment to club, vocational, community, international, and youth services.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Smile for Shattuck. All right. So we still have a few more awards, but when people get back from vacation, we will take those up again. Can we have everyone who won an award that knows about it stand up and let's acknowledge the entire group? These guys put in a lot of time in it. Now, I've got to tell you, when I sat down to start thinking about who was going to get the awards, I had a very difficult time because so many people in here deserved awards, but we couldn't give everybody a ribbon. It's tough, but everyone in here contributes in a meaningful way. And I want to thank all of you for everything you have done this year. You've made being a president a joy, and I thank you all very much for that. So great job, everyone. Let's get on to regular club business. Mr. Eunice, talk to us a little bit about Brew and Q.
Okay, I know that these events come sneaking up on us really fast, but and by the way, Eric Nielsen is doing a wonderful job heading up all the beer sales. But we have Brew and Q on July 14th from 3 to 7 p.m. And as long as the weather holds out, this is traditionally has been a very good fundraiser. So once again, July 14th, 3 to 7. Eric will be sending out the sign-up sheets, of course, on the internet. That's how they do it. Okay? So just keep that one open. Okay? And also, John, you need to remind everybody there's no meeting next week.
That's on the list. Okay. So I will do it again, but thank you for doing that. Mr. Weber, I believe you have a plea.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
this is a personal friendship plea, a beg for help, etc. So I sign up to serve a meal at the Denver Rescue Mission once a month, the first Thursday of every month. I have 10 people that I just put out to my network of people when we go serve a meal at Denver Rescue Mission. I have one person signed up for the Thursday after 4th of July. So I need 9 people to help me serve a meal at the Denver Rescue Mission from 4:45 until 7 o'clock. It's Lawrence, like 23rd and Lawrence downtown, and it's just doing food service. We all go on vacation on the 4th of July, but the homeless don't. So they're still here. So I've got sign-up sheets. I'll bring it around to every table if anybody's interested, and I'll send out an email afterwards. But I'm desperate because nobody's around for the 4th of July, and I've never missed a service. So.
All right, great. Thanks, Jay. Much appreciated. Anybody that can help him out who is in town, that would be an outstanding thing. Mr. Peterson, I guess you've got a little bit of an update on the Puerto Rico water project.
So as you all know, we're doing the Puerto Rico water project, and we've been through our different manifestations of what we think will work. And I'm going to bring this up front. And this is the final outcome of what we've come up with for the final version for Puerto Rico. So
here, I'll put it up here where we can see it. And on those really stressful days.
So basically what this is a pre-filter for getting the big stuff out of the water. And then in the 2 buckets together, there's a membrane between the two that filters out all the bad stuff in the water and gives the people clean drinking water out of the bottom bucket. So this is our new project we design model. We get this from a company in Michigan. We pay about $40 for each filter, which is economical for what we can do. And this is very quickly, what's the word I want? We can put this into practice very quickly. So we're excited about this, and we think that this is the way to go, and we're going to ask all of you to help us when we go through this. We're planning on doing, as we told you last week, 100 soon and another 1,000 in the winter or the spring. So we're going to need people, and this is what it's all about.
What are the travel plans? or rough travel idea? What are you thinking as far as members, boots on the ground for this?
To go to Puerto Rico? Well, I'm a little confused.
Well, are you planning to have people go?
Oh, yes,
How
we'd
many
like.
people are going to go?
When we implement this, it'll take people from the club to go down and help distribute them and put them together. It takes about 15 minutes to put this together from the kit that we get from Aqua Clara, and it doesn't include the buckets. So we have to purchase the buckets locally and drill a couple of holes, one for the spigot, one for the membrane, and then put them together. But Mark and I put this one together, never having done one, in about 30 minutes, and we think we could do it again in about 10 or 15. So we need to assemble all the buckets, drill them and put them together, and then take them out into the area in Puerto Rico that we're going to support and distribute them.
Is this a rural or a city?
It would be more rural than anything.
Okay.
Any other questions?
After you're done assembling buckets, are there any beaches nearby? Where
Oh, yes, they have wonderful beaches, especially along the north shore of Puerto Rico.
Okay. Do they serve alcohol?
Oh, yes,
and
they do.
And do they have gambling?
They have the John Berry Special, which is a great big glass, and they don't suffer from what you picked up in Mexico. So.
Thank God for that. In my personal sphere, yes, but not, I don't think that's a Rotary requirement by any stretch of the imagination. Blessing bags. Quick update. There are blessing bags in the back in case you have run out and need more to distribute. Pick up some blessing bags on the way out. I also wanted to just find out. I've got 5 or 6 big plastic tubs sitting in my garage that we had blessing bags in. Does anybody know who those big tubs belong to?
Would they be part of the library?
I have no clue. That's
I would reach out and ask them.
okay. All right. All right. Thanks. I told Jay, I said, as president, you're the last one to know everything, and I have no idea who owns these big plastic tubs. Travel gifts. Mr. Shattuck, I think you have a travel gift with you today.
I have a couple.
Yeah, Rotary years.
We got to try out our new 4Runner this weekend. And we started down, went over Monarch Pass, made a right turn, headed up towards Ohio and Pitkin, and then over Cumberland Pass to Tin Cup. Fabulous town of Tin Cup. I have a nice denim hat here from Tin Cup. They don't sell tin cups in Tin Cup. They have to buy 10 to 15,000 at a time, and this poor little shop, which would fit in less than half of this room, and that's the original general store for Tin Cup. You couldn't set up 2 tables that we have here in the general store. But here's a nice mug from Tin Cup. Then we went down to Taylor Park, and here are 4 coasters that say, "I survived Taylor Park 4x4ing. Taylor Pass, Flag Mountain, Tin Cup Pass, Pearl Pass, Handcuff Pass, Napoleon Pass, and Schofield Pass. The one it doesn't have is Cumberland Pass. My wife refuses to go over Cumberland Pass again. It had to have been one of the roughest rides I have ever been on. It was 21 miles from Pitkin to Tin Cup, and it took us an hour and a half. And then I have a desk calendar with bears on either side, little black bears on either side, and you change the calendar dates and the calendar months. So those are my travel gifts.
All right, great. Thanks, Don. Mr. Weber, I think you might have a travel gift.
So I drove back 12 hours to Dubuque, Iowa over the weekend with my family, and I was at a gas station in Nebraska, and they were selling American Pie moonshine. So I figured what an appropriate gift from Nebraska.
Yes, no doubt. Probably their best export other than corn. Patrick, the luck of the Irish.
Yeah, but well, before I talk about my travel, just wanted you to know I did visit the Rotary Club in Adrian, Michigan. And they were really thrilled that I brought a little banner, but they were very embarrassed that they didn't have one to give to me. Oh. So I have an IOU, so I probably will get one. And by the way, they were talking about water filters there also, but I don't think it was going to Puerto Rico. They were going somewhere else with them, but maybe, and I didn't ask too much. But anyway, I was gone for 3 weeks. And I had a hectic 3 weekends. First weekend I went to Kenilworth, New Jersey to a 60th anniversary, wedding anniversary of good friends of mine there. I met a lot of old friends that I knew when I lived in New Jersey. And then I went to Pennsylvania, to Philadelphia area, where my wife's grandniece got married the following Saturday. And then got on a plane and flew back to Michigan and attended a 50th anniversary of a good friend of mine, a Catholic priest, that was in Fowlerville, Michigan. I did ask around to see if there was any more parties coming up, but I ran out of parties and I ran out of energy as well. Anyway, I do have a bottle of wine here from the great state of Michigan, from Lenana Peninsula. If you've never been there, in the upper part of Michigan, you really got to go. It's really beautiful up there, especially this time of the year. I wouldn't recommend it in January or February.
Right. Oh.
And I just have a little deck of cards from Philadelphia. I couldn't find anything in New Jersey, so... Anyway, I hope you guys are able to understand me between my Irish brogue and New Jersey accent. And I'm not sure what the accent is in Philadelphia, but in Michigan where they say water instead of water, and they say roof instead of roof. Anyway, I had a good time and I'm glad to be back. As I say, I ran out of energy, and thank you. Bye.
Well, hopefully we re-energize you. Are there any other travel gifts? Kathy Smith.
Well, I went to Glenwood Springs, and I can't tell you guys enough about how the new pedestrian bridge is absolutely wonderful. I think it'll do a lot for the town. And I went to Black Canyon, the Gunnison. I brought back some adult toys, but not that kind of adult toys.
Oh,
I brought back a coloring book. It's the National Parks. It's a really cool coloring book, but it's more of an adult coloring book. And I bought back a jigsaw puzzle of the 14ers, 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle. So that was my trip.
Very nice. Any other travel gifts? No? Roxy, I believe you are all about Happy Bucks today.
Yes, I am. And I'll get my microphone. Okay, this morning I do have some, in the tradition of Mark Garfinkel, I have some presidential trivia. Now keep in mind when I go around this room, the last table to be able to answer will be Mark Garfinkel's table. But there were 2 presidents who entered the presidency as bachelors. So if you can name one or both those presidents, I have $10. And if you can name which of those bachelors got married in the White House, the physical building of the White House, then I have $20. So is there anyone at this table who has either a happy buck or a guess? Okay. You have a happy buck. Okay, great.
Happy Bucks for all of our guests, all of our award recipients, changing the guard, a great couple of days, and mostly for you, just so you know. You're my hero today.
Okay.
I got one happy buck. Thanks again, Cheryl, for putting on a wonderful garage sale for your community that you adopted. Had a good time and got a few good deals. Well worth the $1 I gave today.
Anyone else at this table? Okay. Doug.
I attended my first changing of the guard meeting over the weekend, and it was a really great experience, and it made me happy, and I'm happy to be a member of this club.
I've got a couple of blessing bucks. I am blessed and grateful to have found this club. And I really want to thank the exemplary leadership that we have. The entire board has made me really grateful to be here, but especially our president, our outgoing president, who has just demonstrated just such a sincere commitment to this organization. I know what it takes to be a leader, and you have truly committed yourself to the cause, John. And I just wanted you to know how much I appreciate your heart-centered leadership. It has truly made me feel blessed to be a part of this organization. I would be remiss if I did not mention his other, I won't say better half, his other half.
No, she's better.
Karen Berry, who you two are truly the new power couple, and I do appreciate that.
Okay, any happy bucks at this table? Okay.
So I have two. Of course, the first one is NASCAR related. So our Denver team, Furniture Row Racing, and our driver, Martin Truex Jr., won the road course race in Sonoma on Sunday. So yay for them. And just remember, when the Broncos start and they're not doing very well, there's always NASCAR on Sundays. Support our team. He has a very good chance of bringing home a championship again this year. So, get on the bandwagon. The second one is for my loving husband. He and I are both very excited that this is his last meeting and he gets to turn things over to Mr. Eunice. But we appreciate everybody, all the work that you've done this year, and I know he appreciates it very much.
Thank you.
$2. One, I'm always so thankful that I belong to this group. I look forward to every Tuesday morning coming here when I can. And the other is for this young lady who's our new sheriff. Thank you.
I need 50 cents change. This is a thank you buck to John Barry. Half a buck.
Ow!
Yes, I have two. One is congratulations to this young lady. You're with a good man today, Macy. The second one is I was at a car repair shop yesterday, and I walked in, and a lady there, Pat Fisk. Are you familiar with Pat Fisk? She belongs to Castle Pines Rotary Club, and she was lamenting that their club is stagnant. And I'm thinking to myself, geez, you ought to come to ours. And I think following right along with what Mark said, with a lot of tomfoolery going on, I think that contributes so much. But anyway, you guys are doing a great job, every dang one of you. Thank you.
Right. Thanks.
Thanks, Paul.
Paul, FYI, I don't believe that poaching members from other clubs is covered in the four-way test, so do what you think you need to do.
Jay.
All right, I have two. One is for the outgoing president and the leadership in the past year, and the second one is for the award recipients. And without you guys, this club wouldn't be as this active and so wonderful. So thank you, everyone. I'm so glad to be part of this.
What we got here at Jay?
I have three. One, my daughter Caitlin comes home from her year in Spain through the Rotary Youth Exchange. She comes home on Sunday. I am both excited and terrified because she's already testing the limit, saying, well, my host dad let me stay out till 3 in the morning, blah, blah, blah. So she's already poking and testing. So, second one is for safe passage of the trip, 12 hours on the road each way to Iowa this weekend. Third one is for our sheriff for the day. Just remember, when you pull people over, you can give them a warning and not a ticket every time.
It's called compassion. I have two. One is for a member who's not here, who's winging her way over to England and Scotland. But I really wanted to have a thank you buck to Barb Medina for opening up her house to us for that great changing of the guard ceremony that we had. And the other is for our sheriff of the day. You'll probably learn more than you ever know, and you'll realize it when you're like 18 and a cop stops you somewhere.
This is my buddy sheriff. So one apology buck for missing the changing of the guards, and then another $1 for My daughter-in-law is pregnant again, so working on my third grandchild.
Great.
I live clear out by Broadway, almost to Broadway, the far end of Centennial. And I go to this King Soopers that's right there on Broadway in Mineral. And Friday morning, I was picking up donuts for the office, and only for the office. And I saw, a guy hard on his luck sitting right there at the corner and had a sign. I pulled up and I said, "Hey man, could you use this bag of goodies?" He says, "Man, I just got one from somebody." It had to be somebody in this room. He holds up an absolute blessing bag that he had just gotten five minutes before, which I'm sure somebody sitting here hit him just before I did. So that was a good buck's worth. Yeah, it was funny. He said, "No thank you."
Can I do a guess?
You can do a guess. Yes, thank you.
James Buchanan is one. I don't have the second one, but I'm sure Mark does.
So we're up to the $10.
Okay. And I have two. One is for all of our guests and award winners from the Changing of the Guard, and to our new sheriff, which, you're not nearly as intimidating as the other one. You look kind and smiling.
And he's not all that intimidating.
Really pleased. Also, the other one is for missing Changing of the Guard. This is the first one I missed since 2001. And it was unfortunate, but I saw something about bring your coconut bra. And I thought if you all had found those, I was not coming. So did you find them?
Oh, I have two.
You have them, okay.
I have two, and I know exactly where they are.
Great. Well, that's
so remember
why.
that at Christmas time.
I started over there, and they were, no, I'm not going to do this. No, I really didn't.
Yes, I've got one for our outgoing president who, when I came here in September, just showed leadership in making this a friendly place to come. So that's why I kept coming back. Besides other people, of course. And the other dollar is for the sheriff over here, the sheriff of the day. And I'm not going to say anything bad about the real sheriff because, I'm just going to meet him along the way after saying something bad about him.
Thank you. Don.
If I can get 4 change, I've got 6. 5 of them are for John Barry, and thanks for getting us a new 4Runner that we had more fun with this weekend. We went over Cumberland Pass, which don't ever take a passenger car over. Went over Cumberland Pass, which absolutely spectacular. And over Marshall Pass, and the $6 is keeping up the wildlife. Scared up a marmot as we were going over Marshall Pass.
What's a marmot? They are like giant chipmunks. Giant thing.
A woodchuck and a manatee.
So these are 2 thank you bucks. The first to John Barry. You've been president during my entire Rotary life, so
well, there is a new sheriff in town.
Yes,
both literally and figuratively.
So a year from today, we'll see if there's another thank you buck for that. But the other thank you buck, my wife and I were eating dinner at John and Karen Peterson's house last night, and next door to John, there was a neighbor who was pretending to water plants. But it was more of a Sean Spicer moment. Mike Ober, thank you for last night's entertainment.
John.
I have 2. The first happy buck is for me, for John. Thank you. It's been a happy year. Great working with you. And my second happy buck is for you guys. I'll miss the next meeting, and that'll make you happy.
Won't everyone miss the next meeting?
Well, I mean the next.
Oh, okay. All right.
I have 3. The first is I'm grateful that the community garage sale is over. But the unique thing was I was able to pick up probably 1.5 boxes of Christmas ornaments and 2 Christmas trees. So I don't know who's collecting those at their home, but I'd be happy to deliver them.
You are.
Oh, I am. They're sitting in my living room right now. The second is Happy Buck is because I'm regrettably missed Barb Medina's party and the changing of the guard because my company, not my company, the thrift store that was supposed to come and pick up everything after the garage sale bailed out 2 weeks beforehand. So I went and rented a U-Haul truck, 26-footer, and filled it twice.
Whoa. Wow.
After the garage sale and took it over to ARC. And then my third Happy Buck is to have Dan here with us. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
I am a past president of a Kiwanis Club. I hope you will forgive me for that. But I am glad to be with this group of Rotarians today.
Thank you. Roxy, he has a guess, but he's too afraid to make it because he's afraid of looking stupid in front of his
No, he
mom.
can do the guess.
I'm not sure. It's a wag. Was it Hayes?
I'm sorry. It was
So, there. Anyway, 2 Happy Bucks. The first one is this is our wedding week, and we have guests coming in from far and wide. And this weekend, our guests from Denmark arrived.
Wow.
2 lovely children, and we took them to their first Rockies game. And I don't know how many games all of us have been in our lifetime where we didn't catch a foul ball, we didn't get on the jumbotron. So that's most of us. These kids, double banger in one day.
No way.
Alec gets on the jumbotron right away, dancing around, and he's a handicapped kid, and he's dancing around. Just loved it. And then later on in the game, we get a foul ball off of Nolan Arenado. So yeah, it was awesome. My last Happy Buck, obviously, in 3 days I get to marry this beautiful woman. So.
Aww.
Well, I have a few here. I want to do a cheat buck. I want to say egg on my face buck. We always, I don't know why I don't remember that Rotarians have amazing businesses and they're amazing business partners and they're very generous. And I just want to say a thank you buck to both, well, Kent's not here, and then Tim Muniz. Kent graciously made us a wedding brew, 2 different wedding brews. We have a cream and a wit, and I'm excited to crack those kegs on Saturday. I've already warned his family they're not allowed to touch it until after the I do. And then the second one is Panic Buck, as we had a couple of last-minute swag needs, and within a matter of a few hours, Tim had it all figured out. It's all printed. His team did a great job. I haven't even seen the proofs, but I know they're going to be great, and it's just awesome to do business with people that you can just close your eyes, say, can you do this? And they say, yep, and do a great job. So that, but I also have $50 for our first 50 years together, starting Saturday. And there should be a year 0 on the anniversaries, because ours starts Saturday. But here's to there's a trend in this club of long-term marriages. I'm hoping it rubs off on all of us, and 50 years to start.
Well, I have a Happy Buck. It's nice to have a second sheriff. Yeah. You have a great day and have a lot of fun. And congratulations to all of those who took home awards. I can say I have been only a member for 5 years, but I've never missed a changing of the guard.
Good.
And Barb Medina has hosted most of those, so she is wonderful. And I was going to say, Karen, Sonoma, where he raced, well, Hank raced that track 3 times. I've been out there, walked around a lot of that. It's a beautiful place to go. So when you and John want to go see another race, go to Sonoma. That's a good place. And congratulations to my almost son-in-law and daughter.
So do we have a final guess on the presidential questions?
There are 3 bachelors. James Buchanan, who, by the way, is related to Randy Pye, so it's appropriate that you would know that.
And he was a bachelor the whole time and never married.
That's correct. Grover Cleveland, who married his law partner's daughter 30 years his Jr. And then there was Andrew Jackson, whose wife died sadly about a month before taking office. So, yeah.
He was like a widower.
Well, there was a scandal.
Yes, there was a scandal of whether he was really married or
That's
not.
right.
Yes.
So he may have actually really been a bachelor all his life. And I won't tell you about Grover Cleveland's scandal because we have a young lady in the club today. But anyway, John, I have 5 here. John, fantastic year.
Thank you.
Fantastic job. Also one for Tim Eunice. I know you're going to do a great job this year. We're all behind you. The young sheriff, congratulations. And also all the Henshins here, congratulations. I know you're going to have a wonderful marriage.
Hey.
No, all 2 of them.
So witness, I've got $30 here for the correct answers.
Wow. Very good.
That was Grover Cleveland.
I've got one. Got Mike. Whoops, throwing money around. I've got 4. First is for our young sheriff. Now, I wanted to let you know that if you ran for sheriff this year and defeated him, you could term limit out before you're out of high school. So just something to keep in mind. I've got one for Barb Medina. As always, she did such a great job on changing to the guard. I kept asking her coming into it, what can I do to help? Oh, it's okay. I'll just get everything done. At the end, I was the last one there. I said, what can I do to clean up? Oh, no, don't worry about it. So I just packed up a little food and left. And she is on her way to Great Britain. So an awful lot of fun there. I've got one for my lovely wife on her 29th birthday. We're actually going to be up camping up really close to where you were, Don. We're going to be up at Taylor Park Reservoir, blowing out of there soon after Catherine's wedding. We're going to head up there. And then the last one is for every single member of this club. As I mentioned at changing of the guard, the president in some ways is a figurehead. Really where it all happens is with you guys. And without the good humor and the intelligence and the dedication of each and every member of this club, it wouldn't be what it is. And just go visit some clubs. If you're ever thinking that, well, I'm getting a little bored with Rotary, go to a couple of the different clubs and you'll be back really quick and you'll be re-energized. So thank all of you for really an outstanding year. And with that, Cheryl, would you like to introduce our speaker? And Reverend Dan, I'm sorry, we have gone over a little bit, just so you know. So
we'll still give him his 25 minutes.
We'll extend the tapping on the watch time.
Okay, great. Well, this is Dan, Reverend Dan Bettinger, and I met Reverend Dan at my church when he came to speak to our Bible study. And prior to that time, he had come prior to that to speak to our men's group at our church. And he came to speak about Welcome to the Big Leagues, which you're going to hear about today. And this is the book he's actually written. But it talks about the significance that men can find in their lives, but, women can too. And Dan grew up in Williamsport, Pennsylvania, which is where my grandparents lived for years and years and passed away there. And then his dad asked him while he was in high school, what do you want to do with your life? And he said, well, I really don't know. And his dad said, well, have you ever thought about going into the ministry? And he says, well, I don't feel like I was really called. And all of a sudden, something came over him right then and there. And he said he chose to go into the pastorate and went to Tacoma Falls, Georgia, for his theology studies. And then from that point on, he has been working with families the rest of his life, all his life, and has really had a ministry to seniors and those as passing on to their next life. And in fact, he just worked through this with a friend of mine this past week who passed, Catherine Greth. And so Dan works with chaplains, he works with churches, he works with hospitals all over Metro Denver to walk that final journey with many people. Dan, thank you so much for coming, and I encourage you to really consider purchasing his book afterwards. It's up here.
Thank you, Cheryl. Rotarians, it's great to be with you today. Thank you for all you do to volunteer. I just think of all the things I heard about today. It's incredible. Your impact is immeasurable. And by that, I mean beyond measure. You can't even measure the value of all the things you're doing. I'm going to share with you a message today that I hope is going to encourage you. I hope it's going to help each of you feel a little bit more like your life matters. And when you really know your life matters, you've made it to the big leagues, whatever your game. You're in the big leagues of making a difference in this world. Like Cheryl said, I'm from Williamsport, Pennsylvania. Does anybody know what Williamsport, Pennsylvania is famous for? The Little League World Series. So when you're a kid growing up in Williamsport and you get to go over and watch the Little League World Series every year and see teams from all over the world come and play baseball, you grow up just loving baseball. But I never even went to a big league ball game until I was out of college. And so baseball was always kind of bigger than life. It was this awe-inspiring experience. Whether the Rockies are winning or losing, I just love to go to the games. I love that feeling when you come up the escalator after you've gone through the giving them your ticket and the metal detectors and all that stuff. You come out on that landing, you smell the popcorn, the peanuts, the hot dogs, the beer, and all of that stuff, and you look out through the upper deck and where you are, and you see that big grassy expanse. It's almost a sacred experience. I love just being at the ballpark. But then through a series of providential events, I got to meet and become friends with a big league ball player. He played on the team that was arguably the best team to ever take the field. Now, you Yankees fans are going to try to figure out which year that was. But it wasn't the Yankees. Does anybody want to take a guess of the other team that maybe that year was arguably the best team to ever take the field?
Cubs.
Okay, wrong. But a very good choice. And this is obviously an arguable point. It's subjective and a matter of opinion. Anybody else? The Red Sox? Nope. It was the Cincinnati Reds in 1975. And I'll tell you a story in a couple of minutes of all the great Hall of Famers and All-Stars that were on that team that arguably made it the best team ever to take the field. They were called the Big Red Machine. They just won and won and won, and they won year after year. Now, this ball player played on that team for 7 years. And not only did he play on that team for 7 years, he played in a couple of World Series. He played in 3 World Series. He played in 4 National League Championship Series. And then he was traded to the Atlanta Braves, and then he became a TBS broadcaster. His name is Darryl Chaney. And when I got to be friends with him, and he and I started hanging out doing a one-to-one mentoring discipleship relationship, I discovered something about him that I was just shocked about. He was always using self-deprecating humor. He was always kind of putting himself down. He was putting down his baseball career. Now, as a kid growing up in Williamsport, just meeting any big league ball player who played in the big leagues, who played in World Series, who hit his first major league home run off of Juan Marichal, who hit a big league grand slam. I'm just thrilled when I get to walk up and smell the popcorn and see the grass. He actually was on the huddle in 1975 at Fenway Park after the 7th game of one of the best World Series of all times as a winner. And I go, how can you possibly put yourself down? You are so cool. Your success is so admirable, so enviable. I'm happy just to know you, and you're not even happy to be you. You know, how does this work out? And I begin to discover that he had a problem that I had. And if I had the problem, maybe some of you have it. that even when you're at the top of your game and working hard, there's this nagging voice in the back of your mind, there's this kind of sinking feeling sometimes in your chest, do I really matter? I'm working hard, I'm doing stuff, I've got a lot on my plate, but do I really matter? Is my life making a difference? Does my contribution to this world make any difference? When I'm gone and the world just keeps spinning around, is the impact of my life going to make a difference to anybody else? Let me just ask you a question real quick. And I know we're already a little over time. I want to honor your time and not go long. But when do you most feel like you matter? Now, we don't have a long time for this, but I'd like a couple answers from the audience. When do you most feel like you matter? And if you don't want to answer it for yourself, answer it generically. When do people most feel like they matter? Yes?
When they're serving others.
When they're serving others, okay?
We adopted our child. We matter.
Great. Yes, okay?
Picking up a grandchild.
Picking up a grandchild. Right.
My 4 little grandchildren always want to go to Steak and Shake.
The simple pleasures of life. Aren't they awesome? With grandchildren, yeah. Yep. You know, these are great answers. And I agree with all of them. And I think, especially when I talk to a group of civic-minded people, volunteers, people serving others, you are much more engaged in what makes you feel like you matter. But let me ask you a question. What about when something goes wrong in one of these areas? What about when you lose your health or you get sick and you can't serve people? Or what about when you're in a group like this and you lose your job and maybe you have to quit the group, or you look around your table and everybody's got more money than you do and you wonder, you know, and all at once there's things that start churning and tempting our minds, and maybe we even compare ourselves with other people. Why didn't I get Rotarian of the Year? I've been here more times and, you know, I'm sure nobody here ever had that thought, but, you know, it's just an example of the type of thing that can start to get into our minds. And I asked Darryl, I said, how can you not think you really matter? And it was just because he ended up not having the position on the team that he ever dreamed of. Now, initially, that sounds like, oh, he must have been such a whiny guy, you know. Let me tell you a little bit about the Darryl Chaney story. Darryl in high school was a stud muffin. He married the cutest cheerleader. He was a 3-sport. He didn't marry her in high school, but she became his girlfriend, and he married her shortly after. But he played football, led his team in Hammond, Indiana to the state championship. And not only was he a good football player that led his team to the state championship, you know, every year parade comes out with the high school All-Americans. He was the high school All-American quarterback. You know, big shot. He played basketball, you know, lettered there. He played baseball, was good enough. The Cincinnati Reds came, signed him up, and in just a few years, he breezed through the minor leagues, made it to the big leagues. His second year in the big leagues, he's playing in the World Series. When you're like 21 years old and you're playing in the World Series and you've had that kind of a career, you think you're a big shot until it takes a turn. So his manager, Sparky Anderson, came to him one day and said, Sparky said, Darryl, I want to do you a favor. Oh, great. My manager, Sparky Anderson, Hall of Fame manager, wants to do me a favor. What's he going to do for me? He said, Darryl, we're going to send you down to the minors this year. We want you to shorten your swing. We want you to improve your batting so we can get your average up a little bit. Well, Darryl was, you know, flabbergasted, you know. But Sparky Anderson, very wise man, and so Darryl went down. He had a good attitude. He did a great job. He played against the Denver Bears, if you remember back in that day, and made the all-star team for the minor leagues, and he made it back to the big leagues that year. The next year, he goes through spring training. He comes back, and there's a new guy on the team, Davey Concepcion. And Davey Concepcion got Darryl's job at shortstop. And Darryl ended up being the utility player for the Cincinnati Reds. Does anybody know what a utility player is? He does everything. He does everything. He backs up. And he wasn't a guy that went back and forth to the minors, as it seems happens with the Rockies. But, well, that's the way it's been with their utility players lately. But he stayed on the team. But he's the type of guy that when a guy'd get hurt, he'd go in. When they needed a special play, he'd go in. And Darryl would go for days and sometimes weeks without even playing. And he really started getting discouraged. And he was being paid minimum wage. And he was being paid minimum wage while one of his teammates became the first $1 million baseball player. Now we know today many of the guys make many millions of dollars. But do you know who the first $1 million baseball player was? This will be a good trivia question when you go around the table, except everybody will know the answer now. You know it was on the Cincinnati Reds, so there's one guess. He's not in the Hall of Fame, that's the second guess. And John, you were right, it was Pete Rose, first $1 million baseball player. Now you're making, Darryl started at $18,000. He got up to where his top salary in the big leagues was, I think, $75,000 when he was with the Atlanta Braves. But during this stretch, he would go home during the off season and work for the city of Hammond just to pay the bills, because he didn't make enough, and he's playing with the first $1 million baseball player. This sort of does stuff in your mind, and you're not playing every game, and you kind of get to wonder, and it starts to get to you, and you go, do I matter? Do I matter to my team? Do I matter to the city of Cincinnati? Do I matter to myself? Do I matter to my wife? Am I really important? And so his attitude, it started to get to him a little bit, and he one day told his wife, he said, Cindy, if somebody doesn't break a leg, I'm never even going to get in the game. He said, I'm really frustrated. He said, I got to talk to Sparky about this. I got to take a chance and go talk to Sparky and see if he thinks I can play more. And so he goes to Sparky Anderson the Sunday before the All-Star game, knocks on his office door. It was right outside the locker room. The door was half open already, but Sparky saw him and said, Darryl, come on in. Have a seat. And it was a round table like this. And he said, we need to talk. And what's on your mind? And Darryl says to Sparky, well, what's on your mind? You know? And he said, well, your attitude's been off. It's even affecting guys on the bench, and we've got to fix that. What's on your mind, Darryl? He said, Sparky, I got to play more. If I'm not getting in the game more often, how am I going to get better? How am I going to get my batting average up? I mean, you know, I dreamt of being a superstar on the team, not a backup player on the team. And so Sparky Anderson, sometimes when I see baseball managers, I don't know how smart they really are, because you just see them standing there with one sheet of paper making a few pitching changes. These guys have some wisdom. They know how to manage young men and egos and help them achieve at their maximum level. Pretty wise men, and I saw that through Sparky Anderson when Darryl told me this story. Sparky looked at Darryl and he said, Darryl, I got an idea. Let's go around every position on this field and see where we can get you in more. How do you feel about that? Oh man, Sparky, that'd be great. Let's do it. So Sparky looks at Darryl, makes eye contact right across the table, and he says, start in right field. In right field is Ken Griffey. Now we know it's Ken's rookie year. Probably many of you, if you know baseball at all, recognize that game. Father and son, both Hall of Famers. And he's on track to be Rookie of the Year this year. He's doing so well, we probably ought to leave him in right field, don't you think? Well, he was second in Rookie of the Year balloting, but he led a great career. In center field, we'll go over there. We'll leave Griffey over here. In center field is Cesar Geronimo. Now, if you ask me, if the first name is Caesar and the last name's Geronimo, let him stay there whether he can play ball or not. But he could play ball. He had a gold glove. He had an incredibly strong arm. He had a good bat. So we're going to let Cesar Geronimo stay in center field. Going around to left field is George Foster. George Foster is on track to hit 50 home runs this year. He's our big power guy. And all at once it dawns on Darryl, maybe this wasn't such a good idea, because the infield is even better than the outfield. So they came to third base, and who's at third base? Charlie Hustle, Pete Rose. Pete Rose gets 200 hits a year. He's a superstar, and nobody takes Pete Rose's place. And at shortstop now is David Concepcion. He's just been elected to the All-Star team. He's hitting home runs. He's doing a great job. At second base, Sparky Anderson pours a little salt in the wound. He says, Darryl, guess what? What? That's Joe Morgan. He's going to the Hall of Fame someday. And at first base, guess what, Darryl? What? That's Tony Perez. He's going to the Hall of Fame. Now, Darryl, I know you'd even be willing to catch, because you catch out in the bullpen sometimes to warm up the pitchers. But behind home plate is Johnny Bench, and he's going to the Hall of Fame. So, Darryl, where do you want me to put you in? And Darryl, yeah, no, couldn't do that. So Darryl drooped his head, rounded his shoulders, thought about that. He was afraid maybe he'd even be released, and he was traded. He went from the winningest team to the Atlanta Braves, the losingest team at that time. But he wasn't traded yet. That was in '72. He wasn't traded until '75, but that ruins the whole point of this story, so we won't go there. He drooped his head, rounded his shoulders, started to slide his chair back, and Sparky Anderson said to him, Darryl, stop. Slide your chair back in here. You don't get it, do you? Don't get what? You don't get how much you mean to this team. What? I just thought there wasn't a place for me. Darryl, we need you to be you. You are the only guy other than Pete Rose that can play third base. You're the only guy on this team that can turn a double play from both sides of second base. So when Joe Morgan needs a day off or David Concepcion gets injured, you're my guy. You're one of the fastest guys on this team. If Johnny Bench is on second base in the late innings, we need to get a run, I may put you into pinch hit for him. You're one of the very best bunters we have. If I've got George Foster on first base and I need you to bunt him to second, I may put you in for that. Darryl, we need you to be you. We need you to be, for us, to be the big red machine and to be world champions. Wow. Darryl never thought of it that way. I don't know if you've thought of it that way, but God made us all us, to be us, with special gifts and talents and a place in life. Even our age is part, I believe, of God's design for us, to help us to be important and matter and make a difference right where we are. You know, when Darryl told me that story, I was thinking to myself, because I wasn't happy where I was in ministry at the time. You know, I was pastoring a little church when the mega church became the big thing in America, and I felt like I didn't matter. And when I heard Darryl tell the story, I thought, well, you know, there's people here that I'm touching that none of these big muckety-mucks are. You know, I'm just out here in the trenches making a difference. And even now, what I do in care ministry, it was never anything I dreamt of. But being a chaplain at Sky Ridge, where I also work with Divine Hospice and home care assistants, and I sit with people at these most sacred times. You know, like Cheryl said, I sat with this lady in ICU last week, then in her hospital room, then at her home, and I attended her death. And I went, you know, it wasn't famous. Nobody wrote any articles about it. But I felt like what I did mattered. But that had to come to me as I started processing this story and this experience with Darryl. And Darryl, he lifted his head, straightened his shoulders, leaned back and went, all right, I'm willing to do it. And then Sparky said, hey, one more thing, Darryl. And he looked him in the eye and he pointed at him. He said, I want you to be ready when the game comes to you. I want you to be ready when the game comes to you. Now, what did he mean? I want you to be paying attention. I want you to be focused. I want you to just be ready so when I need to put you in. What's that mean to you and me? There are opportunities that we will have to serve others, to touch others' lives in the sphere of influence that only you have. Be ready. Be watching for it. Go out today knowing your life matters. Let me tell you one more baseball story, and my time's almost up, so I'll try to be quick, but I think this is a really cool story. And any of you from Chicago, anybody here from Chicago? Ernie Banks fan by any chance, back in the day when he was Mr. Cub? Yep, there we go. I got the best Ernie Banks story there is, and I'm going to tell it to you right now. When Darryl was 12 years old, Ernie Banks was his hero. Darryl grew up in Hammond, Indiana, so Chicago was almost like the home team. Ernie Banks was his hero, and Ernie Banks was coming to speak at his Little League banquet. And Darryl couldn't believe it. I'm finally going to get an autograph from my hero. And Ernie Banks came into a room like this, but much bigger. There were about 1,200 people there. He came in the back, and Darryl's dad grabbed his arm and had him sit down. And Darryl said, if I don't go back and get an autograph, I'll never get one. His dad said, calm down, you'll get one, wait till after the program. Ernie gives a speech, finishes his speech, and he says, now before I leave today, there's one young man in this audience I want to meet. This young man was a shortstop, like I was, and he wants to go to the big leagues, like I am. And this young man's name is Darryl Chaney. Would Darryl Chaney come up to the platform, please? Well, man, when you're 12 years old and here's Ernie Banks calling out your name and inviting you to come up and stand by him, I mean, his heart's beating out of his chest, and he goes up and he stands here, and here's Ernie Banks looking down at him, puts his arm around him. He says, Darryl, what do you want to do when you grow up? He says, I want to be a big league ball player just like you. And Ernie Banks says, well, here's what you need to do. And it's a little bit like this. He says, number one, when you work, I want you to work hard. When you play, I want you to play hard. When you pray, I want you to pray hard. And I want you to always tell the truth, because if you always tell the truth, you never need to remember what you said. Okay, that's good advice for a 12-year-old to grow on. And then he said, do you want that autograph now? So we took a program and he signed it to Darryl Chaney. I'll see you in the big leagues. Signed, Ernie Banks. Well, that meant so much to Darryl. He went home and he pinned it up over his bed. Darryl was a Catholic. He had a crucifix hanging up there. He pinned it right next to the crucifix. You can decide which one meant more to him. And he still has it. He still has that program. And that's been 50 years, if you wonder how much that meant to him. But that's not the end of the story. I'm almost done. 9 years later, when Darryl made it to the big leagues, Ernie Banks was still playing ball, but he moved from shortstop to first base. And Darryl it was Cincinnati's first series in Darryl's rookie year in Chicago. And it's before ESPN, it's before all the major personalities and fraternizing and all of that stuff. And Darryl went, there's only one way I'm going to get to tell Ernie Banks that he continues to inspire me and he's made a difference, and I want to tell him I made it. It's if I get to first base. Because I'll tell him on first base, I'm here. And so, first game, guess what happens? Darryl comes up to bat. Goes 0 for 3. Okay? Never makes it. Second game, Darryl comes up to bat. First at bat, gets a double. See, Ernie. Okay. Second at bat, Darryl comes up. He gets an infield single. So you know what that means. He had to really hustle it down the first baseline, makes a big turn, comes back. He's standing on first base now, getting ready to take his lead off, hands on his knees, right there by his hero, heart beating out of his chest. How am I going to tell him? What am I going to say? I've only got a few seconds to do it. And a hand comes around the shoulder. Now he thinks it's his first base coach about to give him advice on whether to steal and watch the pitchers move. But he looks, it's a black hand. His first base coach was white. This is Ernie Banks. Darryl snaps up, looks at now face to face, eye to eye, with a peer in the big leagues. We're never quite sure how Ernie Banks connected the dots. There was a story earlier that day in the Chicago Tribune about this young kid who Ernie was his hero, and he's made it to the game, and he's going to play today. We think that's probably, because we know Ernie Banks didn't remember him from 9 years earlier in a Little League banquet, but this is what Ernie Banks said to Darryl Chaney. Darryl Chaney, I knew you'd make it. Welcome to the big leagues. And in front of 36,000 people in Wrigley Field, he hugged him on first base. Be ready when the game comes to you. All of us can be an Ernie Banks to somebody else. We may not be a big league ball player platform, but you have the platform of a dad, of a grandfather. I know there's some proud grandfathers here. I've already heard about it today. There's opportunities to help sheriffs of the day and to speak into somebody's life a future. and to tell them their life matters, and to tell them you'll make it someday. Rotary's good at that. Keep doing it, because that matters. That's the game coming to you. Your life matters. Your life matters. Thank you for letting me be with you today.
Don't run off. So we have a couple things to do here, and I've got a job for you to do. But the first is we donate books to a small charter school up in northwest Denver, and we put in those books book plates in honor of our speakers. So this is a copy of a book plate that'll go in one of those books. So I wanted to give that to you.
Thank you.
Right? And now we also have a fully legal lottery that we raise money for our foundation, and we're going to have you draw the winning ticket.
And we're rooting for number 160. It's the number I had in my hand when I came up here.
Okay. Yeah, and the last 3 digits are Home Depot. No, wait.
173.
Wait. Was it you? Ah. Assistant Sheriff Dave.
We just pick the winner. Yes, there's a blue marble.
Hold it high. Make her reach. Make her work for this.
Oh.
So now she's going to pick 2, and if she picks the elusive blue marble,
No.
to Claire. Oh, she got 2. All right. Thank you very much. Great speech.
Was someone looking at that?
I'm sure there's a blue marble in there.
Thank you so much.
So 2 quick reminders before we finish up. Next week for the 4th of July holiday, we will be dark. So if you come here, you will be all alone. And then July 10th will be Tim Eunice's inaugural address. So I would love to see perfect attendance. Let's get everybody here and give Tim a rousing send-off. Thank you. Thank you. So would you all please join me for the 4-way test? For all we think, say, or do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? What do? Do good and have fun.